And we're live and on the air, and this is the TWIS Minion Science Island Hangout. I'm Ed Dyer from the great state of Connecticut. And I'm in perfect health because I'm a retired guy, got no kids, got no wife, got no people to hang around to give me, diseases and things. With me, joining us tonight is Pamela Taylor. She, on the other hand, has a child and is a very sociable person. And as a result, for all that sociability, she's been rewarded by being sick.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm not dying or anything, but I've got a head cold. I've had a head cold for about a week, but then, the whole sinuses got stuffed up and everything, and then it turned into not an ear infection, but liquid built up behind the eardrum that was painful right down into the jaw, so that even brushing my teeth on this side hurt. And I'm house sitting and looking after some birds, and every time they squawked, the liquid behind the eardrum would bash against it, because that's how, the frequency of their squawking is. So I called a house call doctor. I think so here in Australia, some places in Australia, you can call from 4 p.m. in the afternoon, because it's all after hours. If you want to go in during business hours, you've got to go see a doctor. But you can call from 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and they start doing their rounds about 6:30. And they said, they'll be here somewhere between 6:30 and 9:30, and they rocked up at 9 o'clock, which was fine. But they work all night. I think I was the second caller that afternoon. And they came out, and he said, yeah, no, you just need this and this and this. He said, that's another story. He said you need Sudafed PE, so get some from the chemist, so I didn't need the prescription. But I was worried I had an infection and I didn't need antibiotics. So one thing is we have free house call doctors, and you looked it up, Ed, I saw online after you saw my post about it, and you can get them too, but I think they start at $99. If it was $99, I would have gone to go and see a doctor during the day. But the second interesting thing about that is that we used to have what I would say is real Sudafed here in Australia until about 10 years ago. So the real Sudafed is about, it's about 30 milligram, whereas the one that they sell on the shelves now is 5 milligram. And we went from being able to get it works, within 1 day you're better, right? It just melts all the liquid away. It's great. You used to be able to get it over the counter, and then you had to get it over the counter with photo identification, and then you had to get it via prescription only, and now technically you can get it via prescription, but no one prescribes it. And that's because... Hello. That's because if you know how to, you can make crystal meth out of it in your bathtub. Right? So it's one of the many ingredients of crystal meth. So because the rest of us, nasally people have to suffer. I have a friend in this, he's a doctor, and he said, "Oh, I'll post you some." I said, "Oh, well, by the time it arrives, the crappy stuff that I can buy here will have worked." And as of last night, on my left ear, I can pop it again. When you blow, and it hasn't popped all week, so it's obviously mending. Anyway, so that's my little rant. So we have, it's a bit of a nanny state here with regards to medicine, but something that I have to look into when I'm not so brain fogged is I wonder if the battery's dead. I'll have to plug it in. I wonder if part of the reason for it not being as available is because it says on the packet, you're not supposed to take it if you're on antidepressants, and so many people are on antidepressants now that didn't used to be. So I wonder if that's part of the reason that it's not so available. I don't know. Yeah. When I come to the USA next year, I'm going to post some back to myself just for future use.
Yeah, that's it. Well, Sudafed's not a prescription drug.
Not there, no.
But all kinds of your over-the-counter drugs, but mostly the prescription drugs, are now a big source of recreational drugs, I'll call it, here in the United States. I read an article a couple of months ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago, that the home cabinet where you keep your medicine and stuff is the main source of drugs for most young people here in the United States. They don't have to go on the street corner to get drugs. All they have to do is just open up and look at the prescription drugs that their parents may have, and that's what they use.
But, you know, when I was talking to this doctor who, hang on, I'm just trying to plug this iPad in for Chelsey. When I was talking to this doctor about it, he said the ones that are actually dealing with it and all that kind of stuff, they're not making it out of Sudafed in their bathtub. The only people who were ever doing that were the absolute amateurs. And so you're not actually stopping the production of ice by taking it off the shelves. So this is, I'll show you the packet. This is the best we can get now. I miss real Sudafed. So what we can get here is I can't even say it. I think that's just talking I'm talking about. Phenylephrine hydrochloride, 5 milligram. And you need at least 30 milligram, really. But then you can't go and take, you know, a whole pack of this, because then you'll be sick. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't that difficult to make drugs if you know what you're doing. You can, I mean, it isn't like you have to import drugs from outside the country. A lot of the drugs now can be made either by getting something from a pharmacy or somebody steals it and then mixing it and making yourself. Meth can be done, but that's kind of dangerous. Yeah, meth explodes. That's not a really safe way to make drugs. So I don't know.
You know, I mean, not that I get it very often, but you know, when I have had it, it's just Sudafed. It works the next day. You're fine. It's all gone. Being on the stuff that we can get here, it's in a week.
Wow.
I got sick on Saturday, and it's now Friday.
Wow.
So that's crap. Anyway.
It is amazing. I mean, okay, I am probably twice as old as you are, and you'd say older person, immune, and I'm a diabetic, which is supposed to be an autoimmune disease, and yet since 50, I retired at 50. That's 19, almost 20 years. I cannot remember having a cold. I might have had I used to have sinus infections. Well, I went to nasal flushes, and I haven't had any problem at all since then. And that's it.
Well, the only reason I got sick was I had 4 assignments due last week. And I didn't start them all last week. I started them weeks ago. But a lot of the time, you don't get, you know, because there's discussion forums on, because I do it all via distance education. So you have all these discussion forums online, and you don't have all of the information sometimes until the last week, and you've got to go read through everything and make sure you put everything in, and it's just finishing them off. And the only time I can do that is when Chelsea's asleep, because I'm, you know, single mum. That's it. So it was all done overnight. I hardly slept at all for the whole week. I know I live in the tropics, but it is winter, so it's a little bit colder, you know. And I just ran myself down. Plus, I was, just my diet wasn't great because I was, not looking after myself because I had to get all this work done in one go. And so then I just ran myself down. But the last time I was sick at all, I had it wasn't even a 24-hour bug. It was a 10-hour bug of like vomiting and diarrhea in February. I don't know where that came from. But I felt terrible for a few days afterwards. It might have been food poisoning, I don't know. But then before that, it was when Chelsea was 4 months old. We were camping in the outback in winter, and I just let myself get just too cold for too long. Got a cold and I ignored the symptoms, and it turned into pneumonia. So then I was on the antibiotics and steroids for a month, and I ended up being all right. But that's why I called a doctor this time when I went, I'm not going to let it get that far ever again, you know. And it turned out to be fine. But yeah, no, I wouldn't say that I get sick very often. Before that, I haven't been sick for, years. You've got to remember too, I'm still breastfeeding. So
Yeah,
Chelsea taking the nutrients from me.
stress
Hello.
definitely is a big factor because, I mean, when I was working, I always got 2 colds a year. I always missed days from work. And I had this horrible commute and everything, and I probably didn't eat right. Almost since the day I've retired, complete change. Blood pressure down, and I have not had a cold in 20 years. I haven't like the flu. Okay, I get my flu shot because I'm over 65. I get the flu shot, but nothing. So all you got to do, Pamela, retire. That's all you got to do. No stress. Maybe until Chelsey reaches 18 and she gets a job and can support you. Maybe until then, you got to work and worry about the stress and stuff.
That's it. Yeah, no. But that's the other thing I did too. I let my vitamins lapse for nearly a week. That's the other thing I did. I ran out of vitamins and they were on the shopping list and I was busy and I forgot to buy them. So it was just a bunch of things that happened at once and I let myself get run down. But generally I stay on top of it. I'm a very healthy person.
You take vitamins?
Because, since pregnancy and breastfeeding, yep.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because she takes everything from me. I'm still breastfeeding. So I have to try and, replace that as much as possible.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I'm only 45 kilo.
Yeah. Okay.
Like that's about like 90-something pounds. So I don't have reserves.
Ooh. That's where the nasty stuff comes in when you don't have the reserves and you really can't fight the diseases. But in any event, we've talked enough about sickness. So my first story is talking about comas. What could be more fun in this particular case? Now, this is a couple of researchers, and the key word here is a jump starting a coma patient's brain and using non-invasive ultrasound technique. And the key word there is non-invasive. So there was a 25-year-old man. He was recovering from a coma, and his progress was slow until they gave him this particular treatment. And bang, turned it around, turned his brain damage around, I guess, basically. Let's see, first time such an approach was used. And it said, it's almost as if we were, let me screen share. Don't want you looking at the old man's head. Instead, you can look at a coma head. That's just so much nicer.
I'll be listening, but I just have to help someone go to the potty. I'll be back.
Okay. All right. Well, weird picture of a person's head in a coma, I guess. In any event, it's almost as if we were jump-starting the neurons back into function. And this is Martin Munity, and he's a studies lead author and UCLA Associate Professor of Psychology and Neurosurgery. Until now, the only way to achieve this was a risky surgical procedure known as deep brain stimulation, in which electrodes are implanted directly into the thalamus. Our approach directly targets thalamus, but is non-invasive. And that's really, I think, the key improvement we're going to be seeing with treatments being more non-invasive and fewer side effects. They said they had expected the positive result, but he cautioned that the procedure requires further study and additional patients before they determine if it could be used consistently to help people recovering from comas. Let's see, the technique is called low intensity focused ultrasound pulsation. And it was pioneered by a guy named Alexander Bystrowski or something like that. Another professor at UCLA of psychiatry and biobehavioral sciences. A study He was founder of a company called Brain Sonics. In any event, this particular device, about the size of a coffee cup saucer, creates a small sphere of acoustical energy that can be aimed at different regions of the brain to excite brain tissue. For the new study, researchers placed it by the side of a man's head, activated it 10 times for 30 seconds in a 10-minute period. Now, the device is safe because it emits only a small amount of energy, less than a conventional Doppler ultrasound. Before this procedure began, the man showed only minimal signs of being conscious and of understanding speech. He could perform small, limited movements when asked. By the end of the treatment, his responses had improved measurably. 3 days later, the patient regained full consciousness and full language comprehension. That's amazing. He could reliably communicate by nodding his head yes or shaking his head no. He even made a fist bump to say goodbye to one of the doctors. That's just incredible. The technique targets the thalamus because in people whose mental function is deeply impaired after a coma, the thalamus performance is typically diminished. And medications that are commonly prescribed to people who are coming out of a coma target the thalamus only indirectly. The researchers plan to test the procedure, of course, on several more people. And if the technology helps other people recovering from coma, it could eventually be used to build a portable device, perhaps incorporated into a helmet, as a low-cost way to help wake up patients, perhaps even those who are in a vegetative state. So, man, that's just another amazing story of advances happening in brain sciences. And that's really the key. In so many cases, it's almost we're operating with a hammer because we don't know. And we wind up, doing as much damage. And even if we help the person in some respects, we hurt their body in other ways because of the side effects. And this is another example where we're beginning to find non-invasive procedures that don't have the side effects. Huge advance. Okay, waiting for Pamela. I will jump into the next story. Now, it's an interesting way of looking at the question of life on other planets, the possibilities. What are the odds of this happening? And it's not really even a theory. The evidence isn't strong enough. It's not a theory. I'm not even sure it's a hypothesis. More kind of a crazy ass idea by a couple of researchers, but it's interesting in the approach that they took. And let me do the old screen share again for you guys. Here we go. Okay. Reading the story. We know that the universe is roughly 14 billion years old and that someday it is likely to end. Okay, blah. We don't want to talk about the universe, but what we can learn by considering our own place in the history of the universe is the why. Yep, let me rephrase that. Sorry, butchered that pretty good. In fact, I'm going to jump over that stupid 2 sentences and jump in here. A team of researchers, including astrophysicists from the University of Oxford, set up trying to answer questions. When did life begin? What are the odds of life happening in other places in the universe? And the results raise the possibility that we Earthlings might be the first to arrive at the cosmic party. And this is This is just a couple of researchers speculating. Interesting speculation, though. And we're talking about Professor Ava Loeb of Harvard University suggested that life in the universe is much more likely in the future than it is now. That's partly because the necessary elements for life, such as carbon and oxygen, took millions, tens of millions of years to develop following the Big Bang, and partly because the lower mass stars best suited to hosting life can glow for trillions of years, giving ample time for life to evolve in the future. This is another Dr. Rafael Batista, Oxford Department of Physicist, studies author, one of the study's authors. The main result of our research is that life seems to be more likely in the future than it is now. That doesn't necessarily mean we are currently alone, and it is important to note that our numbers are relative. One civilization now in 1,000 in the future is equivalent to 1,000 now in 1,000,000 in the future. Our results depend on the lifetime of stars, which in turn depend on the mass. The larger the star, the shorter its lifespan. Yeah, right. In order to arrive at the probability of finding a habitable planet, which is really, nobody has a clue. The team came up with a master equation involving the number of habitable planets around the stars. No idea how they could come up with something like that. Just a guess. In fact, I think that's what they might be doing in this case, making guesses. The number of stars in the universe at any given time, including their lifespan, birth rate, and typical mass of newly born stars. So they started with some reasonably good numbers. We folded in some extra information, such as the time it takes for life to evolve on a planet, which is a guess, because I don't think anybody really knows. And for that, we can only use what we know about life on Earth. Yes, we're talking about Earth life. And we're talking about the length of time it took for Earth to evolve on Earth and extrapolating that to other star systems. That limits the mass of stars that can host a life, Earth-like life, as high-mass stars don't live long enough for that. So unless there are hazards associated with low-mass red dwarf stars that prevent life springing up around them, such as high levels of radiation, then a typical civilization, typical Earth civilization, would likely find itself living at some point in the future. Another author of the study, David Sloan, Oxford Department of Physics. This is, to our knowledge, the first study that takes into account the long-term future of our universe. Often, examinations of questions like this focus on why we arrived so late. The way they're looking at it, we arrived early. Next step for the next steps towards refining our understanding of this topic, now that we have a knowledge of a whole catalog of exoplanets, the issue of whether or not we are alone becomes more pressing. Well, I don't know so much about that. But it is interesting, the approach they took, which is, the odds are, the circumstances that could have led to Earth-like life are more likely to occur in the future, when there will be more star systems that will develop to the point to allow for Earth-like life. So, no way am I in my lifetime are they ever going to discover life, I think, on another planet? Unless the extreme odds it could happen in our solar system. Pamela, sorry, not going to happen in your lifetime. But Chelsey, I don't know, maybe Chelsey has a chance. Oh.
Yeah, maybe they'll even discover intelligent life on Earth. Because the apes aren't doing very well, are we?
I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist. I think the apes are doing great. And also, don't forget, Pamela, we've only been around for 50 or 60,000 years, only a short period of time to evolve. As long as we don't blow ourselves up, we got another, hundreds of thousands of years to go to develop even much better, you know? Yay?
Hope so. Well, I obviously have faith in the future of humanity. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made another human. So,
well, you know, we're going down here long enough for Chelsey. Chelsea's going to be...
No, I know, but I'm talking about my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. I mean, this is an investment of my DNA. This is my immortality. So I've made an investment in the rest of humanity.
Yes, there you go.
So I have faith we'll be all right. Hello. Hello.
And Chelsey is exactly the type of individual we need for the future. Precocious, rambunctious.
Yeah, no, she's awesome. Won the lottery with her.
You know what's awesome? Bubble wrap is awesome.
Yes, it is.
I got a story here. This is these smart people. This is MIT. Smartest people on the planet, at least in terms of some gauge of intelligence. Now, you know what these smart people at MIT, the PhDs, etc., what they're really spending time doing? They're sitting around the cafeteria. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go back in there. What the? Hey, we got some bubble wrap. Let's go up to the roof and let's see if we can use bubble wrap to boil water. That's what those guys are really doing. So let me read from the story. Really cool story. Just in terms of, you know, how the process of scientific discovery actually works. And here's the first important question that a PhD from Massachusetts Institute of Technology would ask. How do you boil water? Ooh, you don't want to use that traditional kettle or a flame because these guys are engineers. They've invented, now we go a little bit later, and I have to say it's not exactly these guys invented so much as the 16-year-old daughter of one of them. But let's get back to the subject. Okay. They invented a bubble-wrapped, sponge-like device that soaks up natural sunlight and heats water to boiling temperatures, generating steam through its pores. Now, you know, that's not exactly something we don't know how to do. Any event, the design, which the researchers they don't call it bubble wrap, they call it a solar vapor generator. Requires no expensive mirrors or lenses to concentrate in light, but instead relies on a combination of relatively low-tech material to capture ambient sunlight and concentrated heat. Bubble wrap. Now, the design. Where did I go? No, I don't want to talk about that. From their experiments, including one in which they simply placed, they call it a solar sponge, on the roof of their building, the researchers found the structure heated water to its boiling temperature, even on a relatively cool, overcast day, and the sponge also converted 20% of the incoming sunlight to steam. Low-tech design may provide an inexpensive alternatives, if it gets scaled up, for applications ranging from desalination and residential water heating to wastewater treatment. In the ambient sunlight, the researchers found that now this is while they were working on the experiment, trying to find the right combination. In the ambient sunlight, the researchers found that while black granite structure absorbed sunlight well, it also tended to radiate heat back into the environment. To minimize the amount of heat loss, the team looked for materials that would better trap solar energy. And the researchers settled on a spectrally selective absorber, a thin blue metal-like film that is commonly used in solar water heaters and possesses unique solar absorbent properties. And the material absorbs radiation in the visible range of the electromagnetic spectrum. And it didn't work exactly what they were supposed to, the way it was supposed to work. So you got these guys, you got these PhDs, and they're scratching their head, and they're trying different combinations of stuff. And what happens? Who walks in? But one of the researchers, Chin's 16-year-old daughter, who at the time was working on a science fair project. And what did she? She constructed a makeshift greenhouse from bubble wrap. And she was able to heat it to 160 degrees in winter, and it was very effective. Now, there you go. You got your PhDs. There were hours of research, exploring all different kinds of materials, scratching their heads. And who walks in? A little 16-year-old girl, and she's got the problem solved in 5 minutes. That's the terrific part of that particular story. There you go. And you know, that's really, go ahead.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, well, they were probably overthinking it. And she just walked in and said, well, yeah, this is really simple.
It's a silly little thing, but you know what? So many major scientific advances start with a silly little thing, something that really sounds stupid. Boiling, of course, what do? You concentrate the light. I mean, you could probably do the same thing in 5 minutes, come up with a way of boiling water. Now, in this case, maybe do because of the materials or something, they'll upscale it, and they'll find a really cheap, inexpensive way of a device, creating a device, a cheaper device than one that currently exists.
Yeah, well, I've had to come up with some inventive ways of boiling water in the past. Pardon me, sorry. We go, we've been camping out in the desert in the outback, without another person at least 400 kilometers away, which is, I don't know, like 200 miles in any direction, at least. And you've got to boil water to wash things, you've got to boil water to cook, you've got to boil water to make a cup of tea or coffee, so you get inventive. But I will pack bubble wrap next time I go out there. That's a good one to have. And I wouldn't say that I'm a prepper because, doomsday prepper, because some of those people are a bit crazy, but I like to be prepared.
You can be, yeah, and you look at these survivalist shows and things, and you can see how, they don't have fancy equipment or anything. They just walk out into the forest and they make stuff. And they find, the way to make food and how to get different spices and stuff. Our friend Mike in the chat room says, if there is ET out there, it may be that they are about as old as we are, and those stars we see are how many light years away they are. Well, that's a good point, but I got no idea how not in my lifetime, as they say, are we ever going to get any message. Last night on TWIS, they were Kiki and Justin, Kiki was talking about an experiment where they're sending basically little robots. And I don't know how big they are. They're very small, almost microscopic devices. Some of them can be scaled up a little bit, and they're going to be put around the Earth, and there's going to be some commercial applications. But you can send these things out in space. They don't hardly any energy, and they can travel hundreds of light years. And who knows what they'll bump into. Okay. Now I got an interesting story I think you can probably chime in on. And it deals with sex ratios. Now, the real reason I picked it is, let me go with the screen share, is I didn't realize how different parts of the United States have pretty wide disparities between the number of men and the number of women. Now, if you can see the map there, the blue, that's states or even counties where there are more men than women. And the deep blue, you're talking about 105 men for every 100 women. And then as you can see, obviously, as you get brown and then into red, there you have more women than men, perhaps, or even a ratio of 1 to 1. And I didn't realize that. So that was interesting. Now I'll go on to this, and I will say up front, the information the researchers have is accurate. The conclusion they came to, in my humble opinion, I think might be a little bit biased. And I'll explain why. So let's get into the research. Now, contrary, they say, to traditional expectations of unbalanced sex ratios, places with more men than women do not typically experience higher rates of family and social instability. This is research from the University of Utah. Let's see, who are they? Ryan Schrach and Karen Kramer, and I'm sure I've butchered his name. And this particular individual, for his doctoral dissertation, he went to Ghana to study the dynamics of family formation in 8 villages, economic conditions, etc., provided the perfect laboratory, he said. He conducted interviews with 300 people, and he found that in villages with female skewed ratios, men behave stereotypically, engaging in risky sexual behaviors and preferring short-term relationships. But in villages that were male-biased ratios, the men preferred sexual commitment and long-term relationships with a single partner. Now, what he did is he then looked at a whole bunch of data in the United States, him and this other researcher, Kramer, and he made some extrapolations. He said if they used the U.S. Census data, testing associations between sex ratio imbalance and family outcomes across 2,800 counties in 50 states. They evaluated the relationships, gender ratios, and 4 variables indicative of family stability. The percentage of men and women married in each county, as well as the number of female-headed households and out-of-wedlock births. Now, you can debate that because in the United States, you have a lot of long-term relationships, but people aren't married. So just because the couple isn't married doesn't in any way equate to instability. Okay. An intriguing picture, he says. It was mapped out when he looked at this. It's a patchwork, he said. Every state, different counties have different ratios. Overall, the West displayed more male-biased counties, and the Southeast and Mid-Atlantic more female-biased counties. And what he claims is adults were more likely to be married if they lived in male-biased counties than if they lived in female-biased counties. He claims rates of female-headed household and out-of-wedlock births, now both factors associated with so-called fragile families. Well, we can talk about just because a household is headed by a woman does not indicate that it's a fragile family, were lower than in male bias. Thus, contrary to popular intuition, we found that women are women are rare, men are more likely to marry. Well, of course, they want to make sure they grab onto that woman and keep her tied down. Be part of a family and sexually committed to a single partner. Okay, I'll end it right there. The most interesting part of that is, as I said, is really that map of the United States, because I didn't realize these sex ratio differences. Now, what I got to add, and a huge caveat here, is that the research was done by the University of Utah. Utah, of course, is one of those blue states with the highest ratio of men to women. And also in Utah, it's the birthplace, home of the Mormon religion. In fact, I don't know what the numbers are. 60 to 70% of all the people in Utah are Mormons. And the Mormon church is headed by elders. Those elders, surprise, happen to be men, 60s, 70s, and 80s. So interesting. I'm fascinated by the fact that, the disparity in the sex ratios, but I kind of suspect there's a little bit of bias thrown in. So what do you think, Pamela? You think a household dominated by a woman is unstable? Do you think
Definitely
married
not.
people versus unmarried, married people far more stable than those crazy single people, right?
I wish that were true, but no. No, my household is headed by a woman, me, because my marriage was unstable. No, in my experience, men are opportunistic with women. So yeah, if there's more women around, they're not going to settle down. They'll only settle down if that's the better option. So I think you right there, sweetie? I think she's being an elephant. Yeah. No, and also Utah, I mean, I don't know why this sticks out in my mind, but I remember Olivia Newton-John saying that the single physical was banned there, when that came out in the 80s. So I don't know how much sex is going on in Utah, regardless of how many people are married. Yeah.
The interesting thing about Utah is Mormons traditionally practice polygamy, one man with several wives. Now, it's outlawed in the state, but you still have it being practiced in some parts.
But
now,
how are they doing that if there's less women? There's more men than women.
I don't know. Now, first, Mike in the chat room has posted a link to 5 successful societies run by women, and Vietnam is one. The Ida villages, where women own all the property and pass everything on to their daughters. The MOUSUO people of China, they make most of the business decisions and run the house completely. What else? Native American Hopi tribe that I didn't know, called the Peaceful People. Yeah, very environmentally, that's a real focus for that particular tribe, and women have most of the power. You have a group of people called the Chambri of Papua New Guinea. Her land. That's fiction. Okay. So you certainly have examples of successful societies run by women. And my thinking is, when you look at marriage, okay, you have certainly many marriages where you have people in an unstable relationship. And the old idea where you got to hang in there, man, no matter how, and it's really usually the women, come on, woman, how bad that guy is. Maybe he goes out drinking and stuff. Hey, you got to hang in there. You got to hold that marriage together, Well, that's not really such a good idea. And the idea that you do it for the sake of the kids, having raising a child in an unstable marriage is a terrible idea. Divorce is quite often the best solution, not only for the two individuals, one unstable relationship, two stable relationships, it's often better for the kids.
Well, I wasn't given a choice. It wasn't my choice. But, yes, that's right. Jump on the other side, not that side, sweetheart. Careful. Go around the other side. No, go around the other side. Yeah, go around the other side. Okay, all right. Well, don't do it at all then, because that side's dangerous. Yeah.
Pamela, she's not listening. You need a man. You need a man in the house to get Chelsey to listen to you.
No, she listens to me. No, I don't need that at all. No, we talk normally. Yeah. No, she's much less. She's much better off now. She's much less anxious and everything. So no, everything's much better as it is. So basically, if you're a woman and you want to get married, you should move to China, because there's four times as many men as there are women there, and they're more likely to get married, apparently, according to this study, because they need to grab onto the woman, right?
4 times? No, there's not 4 times more.
For every woman, there's 4 men.
Really?
Yeah, after the one-child policy, and they were murdering all their daughters because they wanted sons.
I knew the ratio was up, but I didn't think it was that bad, 4 to 1.
Yeah.
Wow.
So unless there's a lot of gay guys in China right now, I wish there could be, I don't know. There's a lot of men up for grabs.
Well, thinking strictly of procreation, it's one man can impregnate many women. And maybe this is where that idea of polygamy kind of came along. I don't know. So certainly if you're just looking at procreation, you've got one man. It's better to have more women than men. But that's maybe in a traditional society, but not in a modern society. The whole equation has changed in modern society. Here, I'm going to screen share an interesting timeline. And this is the United States. And this shows from 1820 to 2010. And it kind of shows the evolution of the United States. And in 1820, the United States was around 150 years by then. So you start there and you can, let's see, 1860. Okay, now we're across the country. You can see where Oswald expected. Out west is where you continue to have far more men than women. But in the east, and even here in Carolina, you see it's starting to come down to 50-50. You move into the 1900s. And once again, you see more areas where the ratio is even. And once again, it continues to be out west where you have the ratio of more men to women. But it's changing, as you can see. You go to when I was born in 1943, very big change. And I mean, you still see that pattern of more men than women out west, and in the south and in the east, either even or even more women than men. In my little state of Connecticut, there's, just a small difference, almost 50-50. And then let's see, jump. When were you born, Pamela?
1980.
1980.
Yeah.
I was well, there you go. 1980. Boom. Complete change, dramatic change from 30 or 40 years. That's a huge change in just 30 or 40 years. So many of these yellow situations. Now, all of a sudden, you're seeing many, many more counties where there are more women than men. And even out west, The ratio has really changed. Now, however, you go to 2010, and it's beginning to change again. That's the weird thing. We're going from here, 1980, you say, okay, there's the trend towards more and more women. All of a sudden, 2010, and it's reversing. As I look at this map, it looks like it's kind of reversing back. And once again, you get, you get Utah. Yes, Nevada. Really, I guess so. Nevada is probably the highest. Wow, Pershing, Nevada. I don't know what's going on. Probably a mining town or something. I don't know. So, just even looking at that evolution of sex ratio is really interesting, and how it's trending back almost in many places. Well, in a modern society, oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, modern society, I don't think it doesn't make any difference. The only reason why I want to see more women in leadership positions, simply because that's new blood, so to speak, where we've been relying so much on one gender to have all the leadership positions. That doesn't make any sense. So that's why we need immigrants, new blood, fresh ideas. And that's why we need more women. Not because they're any smarter than men, because I know they're not. Not because they're any less militaristic, because I don't think they are. I think it's just new ideas, fresh blood.
I mean, yeah, I'd want to see. That's just USA that we've looked at. I'd like to see, worldwide, what the difference is with the sex ratios. Is that available, or no one's done that yet?
What is?
Let's see. Let me go to the Google. I go to, let's see. We want worldwide sex ratios. Okay, worldwide human sex ratios. List of countries by sex ratio. Okay.
I just wonder if, say in 1980, where there were more women than men in the USA on average, were there more men than women somewhere else? I'm just wondering if it's averaging out worldwide.
There's a link, and let me put the link in the chat area for Mike. Okay.
Because it's generally about 51 to 49, right? It's always just that little bit. Usually, women are about 51% of the population, or females, I should say, and males are 49. And I'm just wondering if it balances out worldwide.
Let's see. Okay, I'll screen share.
Take into account infanticide of China and India, who are our biggest. The two of them together is like a third of the world.
Well, there you go. You talking about, see that red? That's Russia, really. Russia and China.
Hang on.
Where you have that big disparity. Even in Russia, this is Russia. This is not China.
Well, that's why they're. I'm probably going to get hate mail for this, but that's why they're always exporting their women as wives, because they've got too many women. That makes sense now, doesn't it?
You know what? You're right. You're right.
There's no one to marry.
Russian brides.
There's Russian bride. I get ads for Russian brides. And I'm just like, no, I'm sorry, wrong equipment for me anyway. So that's why there's no one to marry the poor ladies.
But it's changing, because the second one down here says red is being born. This is below the age of 15. There you see it's switching in China. So you can see a change in China because of a change in policy. You see a change up here. So you're seeing a change in the ratios. So you have countries probably like Russia and China are trying to develop policies. You got Iceland over here. Is that Greenland or Iceland? Maybe it's Greenland. Yeah, Greenland's been able to get more men there. The men in Greenland probably have been getting Russian wives.
Yeah, well, it's not too far. They probably have been. So Australia, what is Australia? Pink. What did that mean?
Pink means more women than men, but not.
Only flat.
Yeah. Actually, it looks like the United States is a little darker, and Australia is a little lighter. So I would say there's more women, but not by a significant degree. Let me see the countries. Australia.
Yeah.
What do we got? At birth? It's hard. I can't get total. Total in Australia. It looks like even. Practically even. At birth, the ratio is 1.06. But I'm not sure. It's blue. So I'm not really sure if I'm reading that particular chart properly. I don't know. I don't know how to read the chart.
And then we're not going to discover all this week. I'd have to do some more reading on the subject. But yeah, I'm wondering, so why is it, we know why China has more males than females, because they've been murdering their daughters, so they've changed their policy now. But, yes. But why does Russia have more women than men? That's not a policy. Where does that come from? Why? So that means like it's a natural breeding thing, but why are Russians naturally breeding more women than men? That's interesting.
I could understand it if you were talking about 23 years ago. In World War II, the Russians, I don't know what the numbers were. No one knows how many millions of Russians died in World War II, and most of those people who died were men. I mean, you're talking 20, 30, who knows, 20 million people maybe, and mostly men. So I could understand how if you go back to the 40s and 50s and into the 60s, that would hold true.
Yeah, but that wouldn't affect today's numbers.
Yeah.
Because all of that generation are dead now anyway, pretty much, and we're on to the next cycle of where you should be, generally giving birth 50-50.
Yeah. Well, maybe the chart showed it is changing based on live births today. So maybe that first chart where it was all red is factoring in the widows of World War II still having a sex ratio advantage. But when it comes to live births, it's now basically 50-50, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
It's a puppet, is it?
I want to go. This is a quiz I want to take.
Okay.
We're gonna have some fun here. This is a quiz. Wants to know.
Oh, is this the one we talked about last week?
No.
Oh.
This is just 10 questions, but it's, do you speak Aussie?
Sorry, do I speak what?
Do you speak Aussie? Now,
Aussie.
This is based on new words and phrases being added to the Australian National Direct Dictionary. Okay, so, these are probably hip new words. Now, you're a hip new Australian, right? You're up with the modern lingo, probably.
I'm a middle-aged Australian, so we'll find out.
Okay, let's take the test. Okay, number 1. It says, what is an AMBO?
An ambulance officer.
What?
An ambulance officer.
Ambulance officer, okay. I would not have guessed that.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, sorry, are you going to take it and then I'm going to tell you if you're right or not? Is that what we're going to do? Sorry.
Well, I was thinking, and the first thing I thought of was ambivalent. Somebody who, I was thinking more in terms of ambivalent, indecisive person, but I'm going to, okay.
It's an amber. Amber is an ambulance. Yeah.
That
Go on,
is
you answer the next one and I'll tell you.
correct. I see the blue check mark. It says it's
Yeah.
correct. And
I know.
53% of the readers answered the question correctly. Well, most of them Americans like me, and we completely did not get it. Okay. Now I'm going to guess first. It says, carries on like a pork chop, behaving foolishly, spending more money freely, an insatiable eater, stealing food. I'm going to say it's behaving foolishly.
It is.
Okay. Yep. Yes, it is. And 72% got that one. That was pretty easy to guess. Okay, here we go. Straight to the pool room. Rubbish,
I don't know that saying.
valuable, inflatable, and floats. Dang. I would guess
I don't know.
straight to the pool room. Rubbish. I don't think how it could be valuable. You go straight to the pool room for something valuable. I'll say rubbish. What do you think?
I'd guess rubbish, but I've never heard anyone say that before.
No, it's valuable.
Oh, it's valuable.
Oh, I don't know. Okay, there's one against you.
So hang on. So just go. So that's 1998 that came out. Oh, I was 18 then. So carrying on like a pork chop. It said 1975. What was the first one? Ambo. When did that come out? 1986. Yeah. Okay.
86.
So I'm showing my age here.
Yeah, there you go. 1998. It's the kids.
So what's the next one? I don't know the next one.
What's a rural sexual? Rural, I would think certainly is you're talking about farming. An urban hipster who dresses like a farmer. That could be. Fashionable young man who lives in the countryside. Person of questionable character. I would say a urban hipster who dresses like a farmer.
Yeah, I'd probably guess either 1 or 3. But I mean, it'd be a guess. I've never heard it.
Okay, pick 1 or 3. Someone attracted to farmers?
Yeah. You ate it, darling. So it's a fashionable young man lives in the countryside, right?
Yeah, we both got it wrong. This is in 2003, so this is a relatively new term.
Well, the next one I know.
I have no idea. Tracky Dax. Tracky Dax. Well, if it's Trekkie Dax, then it would be an Australian science fiction show.
No.
If it's not, then the only thing I could think of is socks.
No, it's sweatpants.
There you go. 1993. Now, 85% of the readers, so even other Americans except me, didn't get it right. A bunny rug. Well, that's got to be a toupee, right?
No.
No? Okay, what do you think it is?
Baby's blanket. I know that one.
Okay. Wow. You might not be young and hip, but you do know your parents' stuff. In 1921.
1921.
It's been around for a while.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, this is funny.
Goon bag is filled with a goon bag. Well, it's not going to be rabbits. We'll scratch that one off. It's either be candy, money, or wine. I'm going to say it's not candy. So I'm going to say a goon bag is filled with wine.
With wine? Yeah.
Hey, I got one right. 1988. A wombat crossing. Well, wombats are marsupials, but it can't be that straightforward. Okay. A wombat crossing. Marsupials?
Yeah, it's for marsupials.
I had to say marsupials, but that's an easy guess. No, it's pedestrians.
Pedestrians? Oh, I didn't know that.
1993.
Really? Oh, I thought of marsupials.
Son of a gun.
Couldn't find a chook raffle.
Couldn't find a choke raffle. Well, I'd guess. That relates to... go ahead. What do you think?
I'm sorry. I'm guessing organizational skills.
I would say someone who can't organize very well. So I would agree with you. And it is. And that's in 1984. And the last... Is that schmick? No, I know what a schmuck is. Schmick.
Oh, when something's... Well, I say something like it's schmicko. It's excellent. It's the closest. It's good.
I would not have guessed excellent. I would have guessed drunk, or wouldn't be evil. I would have guessed drunk. Excellent. And you got it. 1972.
Yeah, I know the old ones.
Okay, you did pretty well. But you know that you know, I'm sure that's it. Each new generation, when Chelsey becomes a teenager, she's going to be talking in a language you're not going to have a clue what the heck she's talking. You've got to be using words. What?
I mean, a wombat crossing being a pedestrian crossing. That's strange because we do have marsupial crossings. You know, you have the sign, so you know to slow down and not hit them. Oh well. Anyway. But yeah, the others I didn't. Well, you did all right too. I guess some good ones.
All right, now this is an idea by our people at the Yellowstone, not Jellystone, but the Yellowstone National Park. They got a problem. Okay, you got a type of cutthroat trout. Let me screen share for you. Let's see. Mike is saying something in the chat area. Let me check on Mike. Okay, that was my link. All right. And I want to go here. Okay. Now, they want to save the native trout in Yellowstone National Park. And they're being taken over by brook trout. Okay? Another kind of trout. Not native, but another kind of trout. And their great idea for doing it is they're going to stun the cutthroat trout, remove them from the river, and then put a poison called ROTENONI, ruton, or something like that. A chemical that clogs the gills of fish will be distributed throughout parts of the park's water system. And then once the brook trout are eliminated, I would say along with every other freaking fish in the river, the cutthroat trout will be reintroduced to the river. Poisoning an entire river may seem like an extreme solution, you think? But it's an approach that is most likely to get the job done, say the officials. Now, I can certainly believe you're going to save the cutthroat trout, but I think cutthroat trout maybe kind of feed on smaller fish and stuff. So I don't know. This poison is fast acting. It only stays in the water system for a matter of hours. Does not affect the potability of water. You can boil it, I guess, and only targets a specific cross-section of organisms, larger fish with gills. But you're not just going to kill this new species of trout. You're going to be killing other fish as well. And they say the system can recover, and they give us a whole bunch of reasons why they think it's going to be a good idea. And I'm thinking not so much. That's just, now the first thing is, okay, so you're going to stun the trout. Now you stun the trout, you're going to, I don't know, you're going to electrocute the water, but I don't know what they're going to do. But you got to stun the trout. I got to assume you got to stun all the fish and all the organisms, and then go and scoop them up. Now, if you're going to talk about how big this river is, but you got to have a large population, so you got to put them in holding tanks or something, I presume, and hope they survive. And then you go in and you put the poison in the river, which is only going to kill the brook trout. Right. I don't believe that for a second. So this sounds like, a really, really bad idea. This is something I think Australia might try. What do you think, Pamela?
Yeah, we have introduced a lot of species and it didn't work out very well. Yeah, I don't see. Okay, so what's the alternative? So what happens if they don't do this? If they lose that species?
The brook trout will take over, and the cutthroat trout will disappear.
So why not, rather than using poisons and stuff, What about relocating them?
Well, there's cutthroat trout in other rivers. They're only taught there. Now, I'm not even sure about the reasons behind this, because to me, trout's a trout. But what they're saying is that in this one area of the national park, the native species is the cutthroat trout. So it sounds like they're specifically trying to save cutthroat trout because it's the native species. As far as I'm concerned, it's evolution. You know, brook trout is able to outcompete the cutthroat trout. That's just evolution.
It's too bad, mate. So yeah, so they're not going to go extinct. They're elsewhere.
Yeah.
So just leave it alone.
Yes. I mean, putting poison in a river, and they claim it's, slow acting and designed for only certain species, but that just doesn't make any sense to me. Okay. Got another interesting story, and it relates to thyroid tumors. And it really is specifically talking about how with women, because of the new types of scanning done, there's an over-diagnosis of thyroid glands that need to be removed. They're removing the thyroid gland of many women, and they really, and there's no reason for doing it. Okay. Let me screen share. Okay. Most should be left behind there. You're talking about over-diagnosis. And I guess Sweden, not too bad, 43% of over-diagnosis. Japan, 52%. Boy, Australia, 73%. United States, 77%. France, 84%. And South Korea, 90%. And it says, the data in a new report is stunning. And they're looking at 4 years, as many as 70 to 80% of women in the United States, France, Italy, and Australia who were told they had a thyroid cancer and who often had their thyroid removed actually had tumors that should have been left alone. South Korea, 90%. This is in the New England Journal of Medicine by the International Agency for Research on Cancer in France and Italy, 2 research groups, calling it the downside of screening, or the law of unintended consequence. And what you have, and I know I have friends who do this, the increased use of screening, ultrasound, CT, magnetic resonance imaging, is finding lumps in the neck that are too small to feel by hand. In South Korea, the National Screening Program led doctors to actively look for such minuscule lumps by screening healthy people with ultrasound. And the result is over-diagnosis. And once doctors find a tiny nodule, removing the thyroid is often the remedy, but the procedure carries lifelong consequences. Patients must take thyroid hormones for the rest of their lives, and for some, these hormones are not completely effective. They, get cancer, I guess. Patients can feel depressed, sluggish, lots of side effects. Yet pathologists have long known that thyroid cancers, especially tiny ones, may never progress. Autopsies show that 1/3 of the people who had them never noticed them. They died with them. The American Thyroid Association recently advised that when tiny tumors are discovered, the best course is watchful waiting. The trend that has cancer experts wringing their hands began with ultrasound screens. started coming into widespread use in the 1980s. Genealogy, gynecology, and I can't pronounce that word. Clinics started screening healthy young women as part of their routine examinations. They found little lumps, and in addition, the thyroid lumps were found accidentally when people had scans for other reasons. So what you've had here is removing benign thyroid, removing thyroid glands just because you find those teeny tiny even lump, and that's really tragic.
Yeah. No, okay. So why are people getting scans though? I mean, I know they're saying they're finding lumps that you can't feel with your hands, but they're not just going around, doing ultrasounds. Like, I've never had an ultrasound for a thyroid. They're not just coming to your house and saying, hey, can we scan you for thyroid? So how are they over-diagnosing? People must be going in for something.
No, I think I can think of two women. They have a full body scan twice a year. I don't know why.
Yeah, okay. So, hypochondriacs. People who look for something wrong when there's nothing wrong.
Doctors, too. I'm guessing doctors might be part of the problem because you've got this equipment that can maybe, look and find a little lump which you wouldn't have known before. So I've been even doctors who, are not aware of this over-diagnosis themselves and maybe saying, hey, we found this little lump. Best thing is let's just take it out. Something similar happens with prostate glands in men. And they're finding that increasingly the best thing to do, again, depending on the stage of the tumor, the best thing is, if it's small, just watch for waiting. And most men will die with prostate cancer.
Yeah, I know when I was doing, this was 16 years ago, but when I was doing my nursing, I remember them saying that the difference might be you might die in 15 years if you don't have it treated, or 20 years if you do. So you've got an extra 5 years of life. However, you've probably got 20 years without an erection. So, you can rather have 15 years and you can still get an erection. It's about, so when it comes down to prostate cancer later in life, it's quality versus quantity. So yeah, a lot of, because I was talking to a friend about this, because I was saying about, you can, I've just put it in the fridge, darling, because you weren't drinking it. I'll get it. What was I saying? Sorry, multitasking. Oh, right, okay, so if men do a pregnancy test, I think we talked about this before, like, a urinary pregnancy test that you do from the chemist, it doesn't test for pregnancy, it tests for the presence. She wants noodles. Okay, do you want this formula that you just asked for, or no, of course not, why would you? Okay, I'll make it if you shut up. Shush, I'm going to do it now with one hand while I still talk to Ed. So, it tests for the presence of a hormone, can't remember off the top of my head, but you can Google it, and men also produce that hormone when they have prostate cancer. So, if a man does a pregnancy test, the urinary kind, and waits the 3 minutes, if it tests positive, you have prostate cancer. So I was telling a friend of mine about this, and he just went, I don't want to know, and we talked about this, and he said, yeah, because if he had to live 20 years and couldn't ever, get an erection, he'd just kill himself anyway. So it's up to you, quality versus quantity.
Yeah, I remember there's a very good podcast that deals with a lot of science and other things, and that's the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. And I forget the guy's name. I haven't listened to it in a while. But he said, he's a doctor, and he says as soon as you say the word cancer, that's all they hear. You can go on and talk about other stuff, but they're sitting there. All they're saying is cancer. Oh my God, gonna die in 3 months. My uncle, he in his 70s, he was diagnosed with I don't know if it was stage 1. I think it might have been stage 1. Might have been stage 2, prostate cancer. And the doctor, I think, from what my cousin said, the doctor basically said, you know, no big deal, don't worry about it. He went, what did my uncle do? He just chugged down like a bottle of whiskey and got drunk because he was terribly paranoid. He's going to die in 6 months. And he goes, just like people, I'm a bit of a hypochondriac. And anytime I have a symptom, what do? I go to Google. And you do that, and then people post, and I find out I got cancer. You know, it's just stupid. So and in the United States, it's weird because, well, I guess maybe it comes down to your health insurance. If you've got cheap insurance, why not? You're not going to pay for it anyway. But if you're paying for it, I don't know. I don't know. Going for these full bodies. Now, everybody has tumors. I'm going to bet 100% of the population got tumors somewhere. You know, and it just, but they're minuscule and, you know, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't really mean that you got a disease. What you got to look at, and you talked about when you weigh that equation. So you do find a tumor. You do the biopsy. You find out that it is in fact cancerous. But if it's stage 1, you still have to, you can't panic. My uncle, who lived to be 80, he died from pneumonia. He was going for treatments, and the treatments for his prostate cancer affected his immune system, and he died from pneumonia. Now, my cousin, who was maybe 30 at the time, was also diagnosed with, you know, like stage 1 minor cancer. He immediately said, take it out. 30-year-old guy, don't know all the side effects, but I don't know. It's hard. It's a hard decision to make, but I don't know. You got to have some common sense in the equation.
So when you were saying about, you know, if your insurance pays for it, why not? So when you were saying those house calls the other day that you posted about were $99, okay, how does that compare to going and visiting a doctor and sitting in the waiting room and spreading your germs and picking up other things? How much does that cost you?
Doesn't cost me anything, so I don't.
Okay.
I don't know anymore.
That's because you're a veteran, though.
I don't. You know, 20 years ago, I don't even remember. Has to be at least $100 a visit. One talking 20 years ago, it had to be at least $100 a visit. And I'm going to guess they always did tests, and I'm going to guess maybe $300, maybe. But
so,
that was yearly. The only exams I ever had were yearly exams, and I'm going to guess 20 years ago they cost me $300. Now they don't cost me anything.
No, because you're a veteran. I just wondered if a $99 house call was more or less or the same as sitting in a waiting room, because, you know, it doesn't cost me anything whether I go sit in a waiting room or have the doctor come out. So because I have a toddler and didn't want to sit around in a waiting room with a toddler, I called the doctor out, and I posted about it because I just want to make sure other people know that that's the service that's available to them, and make sure that they use it. You know, you don't use it, you lose it. So.
Well, you made a good point. I mean, when you go to the waiting room, what are you doing? You're sitting in a place filled with germs. That's not.
So you end up, you know, picking up something worse than you go in with when your immune system's down. Plus, you're spreading your own germs around. And it's okay if you can go and sit by yourself and not touch anything. But if you've got a toddler who wants to lick things and touch things and then come and lick you, it's not a good place to be.
Mike in the chat room is saying it's 60 degrees in Minnesota. So He thinks that maybe it's 60 degrees where you live. I don't know if it ever gets that cold where you live.
Oh, 60. I'd have to look up. I'd have to do a conversion.
That's probably an all-time record low or something.
Is that Fahrenheit? He's not
Yeah, I
talking.
don't have any idea what that is.
I'm guessing Fahrenheit. So yeah, I've got a chart here. Yeah, I've got the rubber band. I'm just going to get the charger. Oh, and have a look. Oh no, I'm caught on something. Here we go. You want to help me? There's the headphones. Take the rubber band off. I'm just going to do the conversion. What's it? Yeah, that's your poster. Oh. Hang on.
What are you making for Chelsey?
It's things. Here it is. There you are. You're back now. Oh, I'd have to conversion. So where is he? Minnesota. I thought it was warming up there.
No, we're going into fall. What that means is, well, we're still pretty warm in Connecticut. What are we talking about? We're talking about Fahrenheit.
Oh, no, it's warming up here. Sorry. It's
Almost
cooling
warm
off.
in Australia.
Yeah. No, not everywhere. Oh, it doesn't say. I've got imperial to metric, but it doesn't have Fahrenheit to Celsius.
15.5. 60 degrees Fahrenheit equals 15.5 Celsius.
It gets so cold here. It's not at the moment.
But this is at night.
Yeah, I think the low at night here now is about 19 or 20 Celsius.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, because we're warming up.
Yeah, well, we're going from still warm during the day, but getting cooler at night, which is really perfect. Okay. Now you're busy. I've got two stories. No, I've got a story, and then I've got an experiment we can take part in. Since you're busy, of course, I'm gonna. We'll go to the moral machine, MIT. Let's do the experiment first. Then the next story, we'll get into some complaints about WikiLeaks. Okay, MIT's moral machine. And I have absolutely no idea how long this test will take. And it's spinning and it's spinning, redirecting me to the moral machine site. Can I get there, people? Come on. Yeah. Try this again. No, it didn't work. Okay, I'll get there. I swear, people, I'll get there. Okay. This isn't doing out too well. It's still spinning, spinning, spinning. All right, oops. Really slow. I appear to have got to the page. Don't time. There we go. Okay. So let me screen share. There's a link if you want to look at it yourself. I can. Okay, moral machine. And what we're talking about, well, they created this experiment to deal with what we're self-driving cars, because these self-driving cars are going to come up to situations and they want to build an algorithm that will result in the best possible result. well, we don't have to worry about instructions. I can show you. So what they're going to show us different examples. And then you have to we are going to decide which is the best of these two situations. That's pretty easy because you're going to go straight ahead. You don't want to go kill somebody. And of course, we're talking about driving on American roads. Okay. Ah. Come on, you stupid immoral machine. There we go. Ah, the internet's not having a lot of fun with the internets today. Do you think self-driving cars are ever going to make their way to Australia?
I don't need, sorry. Yes, put your shoes on. Yes. Yeah, I think so eventually. I mean, they can't be any worse than most of the drivers out there now.
Okay. We're going to start judging. Okay, let's see. Two scenarios. Okay. Here we go. Now you've got, what are you going to do? You got two, you're going to go straight ahead. You're going to take out, looks like a medical doctor and a woman. Or if you swerve over to the next lane, you're going to kill yourself, a little old lady, a doctor. So what do you think?
Well, you'd go for killing less people, wouldn't you?
Yeah, this is a pretty easy one. Let's see,
Yeah, okay, I'm coming. Yeah, I'd go for less people.
The affected pedestrians are abiding by the law because they're crossing. Okay. Now, how do I get to the next one?
Don't press anything. Hang on, darling. Hang on.
Okay, here's the next one.
Yeah, see, you've lost it now. You've got to wait. Sorry. Okay, 1, 2, 3,
Okay.
4. Or you. But well, I'd have to kill 4 people instead of 5 people. You've got to wait, Chelsea, because you put the code in 3 times and it's locked.
You got 5 people on the left. You got 4 people on the right. I don't see there's 1 extra person on the left. I don't really, it's just 1 more person. It's a fat guy. So the difference between the 2 groups is you got a fat guy. You got to save the fat guy, or you just gotta.
Yeah, but you're gonna
5 against 4.
You're gonna do less damage to your car if you hit the 4 people, aren't you? So, well, yeah, you kill the 4 instead of the 5.
That's what you think. That's this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Chelsea. All right, I'm coming.
All right. Now it doesn't seem to be any right or wrong. So maybe we got 13 questions. When we'll finish, it'll tell us something. Okay. Now, a little bit more complicated. You've got a dog and some cats, or a barrier where you could kill yourself. You could kill 2 people. You're gonna kill 2 people. You're gonna kill the people.
4 people. Look, they've all got skulls on them, haven't they?
Yeah, it means all the people are gonna die.
Yeah, well, no, because my daughter's always in the car with me. So I'm sorry, doggies, but you have to do it.
Yeah, that one's pretty easy too. So far, I don't really see these as being too difficult. Okay, now you got 2 people. 2 people in the car, 2 people on the barrier. You kill the 2 people in the crosswalk, or you kill the 2 people in the car, including yourself.
Well, again, I'd be traveling with my daughter. And if I had to kill every person on the planet to make sure she was alive, then I would. So, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty easy, too. I don't see why. It's the same number of people dying, and in this case, the people in the car are people you know. Let me see the description, if that makes any, that they try to make it more complicated.
Hmm.
The self-driving car, sudden brake failure, deaths of a man and a large woman, and they're obeying the law. Well, that's just too bad. Definitely going to kill them. Okay. Well, what do we got here? Oh, sorry. Oh, I made a mistake there. Okay. I don't know what we did the last time. We're up to 6.
Much for muchness, it was 3 or 3, and so you just chose 3.
We've got. So far, I don't see these as difficult decisions. Do you?
Well, this
Killing
one is
5 people on the crosswalk or 5 people in your car, and you're a driver?
Yeah, but I can't. There's there's no green or red this time, so you can't even see if they're obeying the law or not. Yeah, I think it'd kill the pedestrians, wouldn't it?
So far, I got to say, MIT, this is a pretty dumb little scenario. But we'll see. We'll see. I think what it's going to tell us is what percentage of the, where we stand along with all the other people who took the test. All right, this is a little bit different because you got kids. So do you kill the mother with the 2 children, or do you kill the 3 adults in the car?
3 adults in the car.
Yeah, I think I'd have to go along with that. Okay, now what do we got?
Well, yeah.
We've got a choice between an old couple or a young girl and probably her father.
That comes down to like theories of justice, John Rawls' potentiality of personhood. How much, it's just maths. How much are they going to be contributing to society? And that little girl can contribute more to society in what's left of her lifetime than the 2 people with the canes put together. Yeah, I'm sorry. Kill the old people.
Yeah, I gotta go along with that. We got bank robbers. Kill them all.
yeah, kill them for sure. That's
Wait a
fine.
minute. This is a pretty simple. I don't see how this is morally challenging in any way. Although you got one. Let's see. I think maybe you got 1 civilian in the group. 3 criminals and a homeless person. Okay.
Yeah, that's the bummer about the homeless person.
But in the other case, so it's essentially a homeless person versus 4 adults in the car. I don't care about killing the criminals. I'm gonna kill the criminals and that poor homeless person.
Yep.
Okay. What do we got here? The choice is between dog and a cat, little old lady, little old man, and another guy, along with 1 man and 1 dog.
Yeah, well, I'd swerve.
That's simple math, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we're going to get the two people. What the heck? I don't know. I thought this would be a much more complicated test, and so far it's pretty easy. So here you got 5 people in the car as opposed to killing 5 people in this crosswalk. I don't see any difference between them. I picked the wrong. Sorry.
Yeah.
I wanted to see the description, and instead I clicked the picture.
Empty. So yeah. Well, now here we go. You've got 5. Looks like 5 males or 5 females.
2 executives. Well, 2 of the women are debt getters. We can get rid of them. I'm trying to think of any non-sexist reason for making the choice. Now, the only thing I will say is one of the women is a little old lady.
So it's one of the men, little old man.
Yeah.
I think that potentially 4 of the women could be pregnant. Right? So then, like, it's possible, right? So then you've got mathematically, you're talking about more than 5 people.
Gosh, man. The 2 women are executives, so they're not going to have any kids. Well, you have one large woman, female athlete. I see this basically as 50-50.
I got pregnant as an executive.
I'll go along with you, but that's this side, right? You're going to kill the guys.
Kill the guys, yeah.
And to me, I'd say it's just plain 50-50.
Yeah. Wow.
And once again, we're back to
kill people or kill animals, yeah.
Well, I'm going to kill the animals. I don't see much of a choice there. The results.
Most killed character. Sorry.
I'll go along with that. Any cats in the road, they're in big trouble. Saving more lives.
Matters a lot, yeah.
Okay, that matters a lot.
Protecting passengers matters, yeah.
Okay, go along with that.
What does not matter?
Upholding the law. I don't think that even enters into this equation, to tell you the truth. Avoiding intervention. Kind of in the middle. I don't even know what that means. What does avoiding intervention mean?
I don't know what they mean by that.
Maybe you know what that means? Swerving. If you go straight ahead, you're just going straight ahead. If you swerve, you have to do something.
Oh, yeah, I see what they mean. Yeah, because the arrows. Yeah, I see that now. I was laughing too hard to see the arrows. We prefer female.
I'm in trouble. I'm sorry. I'm in trouble here.
Species preference. Humans, they've written. Humans. We prefer humans, younger, and...
Well, except for the last one. I don't know. We like fit people as opposed to large people.
But I don't think we were choosing because of that. It was all mathematics.
Yeah, actually, you're right. We were going really strictly by mathematics. Same thing. Higher and lower. That doesn't mean anything because we weren't. Right. I don't think we were factoring that in at all. Okay.
And you're also yourself. You're going to choose yourself, aren't you, in your car? Because that's you and your friends and your family, as opposed to people you don't know as the pedestrian.
Yeah.
I remember when I was 9. I remember this when I was 19, and we're doing a nursing ethics thing. And we're talking about, if you have to triage. You know what I mean by triage, when you have to save lives and that. And I was saying, put yourself in a situation. They said, if you had 2 babies to save. This is not me at 19, no children. 2 babies to save, from a house fire. And they gave an image scenario, which one do you save? And, we went through this rational, logical reasoning about as to which baby you would save first, and then you go back and get the other one. And then the instructor said, and what if one of them was your baby? And I remember just going, baby. Oh, you're going to save your own baby first. That's just how we work.
Oh, that's absolutely how we work everywhere. If I remember correctly, the Inuit up in the Arctic and Alaska, if they're in a situation, they're a family unit within their hut or longhouse or whatever, and if they're in a situation where they're running out of food, the grandparents walk off into the snow. Die. The one that gets that even and if it came down to the child versus 2 parents, they will always save the child first. It's always the younger generation they will save. So that's just, I think, something everywhere.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I thought that was going to be harder.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if most people didn't come up with the exact same kind of reasoning that we did. If you're some people I know, and this isn't that you're driving in the road, an animal comes across the road. Now, if it's a person, yeah, I'm going to try to avoid the person. But if it's an animal, I have cousins who have said, in fact, one cousin of mine, it was a cat or a dog, and she swerved and hit a tree.
Yeah.
That's me. Say goodbye to the cat. I'm not trying to save a cat and a dog. I will probably, and if there's 2 lanes and I can go around them, I'll go around them. But if I'm on a road, I'm not going to go around them and take a chance of hitting somebody coming from the other side. So if it's, I'm not going to swerve to avoid hitting a squirrel, or even a cat. I like dogs a little bit better. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I did swerve for animals before I had a kid. Now I don't, because my priorities have changed. So, but I have a friend who died. She, when people go, well, maybe they don't do it there, but, pig hunting, and a head had fallen off the back of their ute, so the way it was facing, it would have apparently, when they reconstructed the scenario, looked like a pig in the, in the road, and so she swerved not to hit it and rolled the car and died. So, but she didn't have any children, so maybe that was why her instincts were like that. But her dog was in the car. She just picked her dog up from the vet, and they later recovered the dog. The dog sort of the dog was okay actually, so the dog got out of the car and ran off, but she died. So yeah.
The only situation would be if my choice, if you're talking about like up in Maine, if you're going a moose, this huge moose is in the middle of the road. Yeah, I'm going to swerve to avoid hitting the moose because the moose is going to kill me or do more damage to my car than if I swerve. But that's just simple logic. Yeah,
we have that problem here with the kangaroos. They just total your car. They come. It's like they wait for you and they come out and jump on your bonnet. Or you call it a hood, I think. But yeah, there's certain. If you can avoid them by not driving, certain times a day. But I mean, when I went into labour, we had to drive at that hour of the morning, so we just drove so slowly. I said, I don't want to hit a kangaroo on the way to the hospital. So we just drove slowly enough that if we hit one, it wouldn't be too bad. But thankfully, none of them jumped out at us. And we made it all right, and we have proof today she's fine. But, yes, we have that problem as well.
Yeah, we've talked about how I've talked about how Australia's got all the deadly animals and things, but up in Maine, where my grandfather had an apple orchard on a farm, and it's in Canada, the moose, when a male moose is in heat, you don't want to be anywhere near, and they go right into they just wander right into the towns and things. That's a dangerous freaking animal. Is a male moose in heat. I don't know. Do you have any alligators coming and swimming in your swimming pool and eating your people?
No. We have some sharks in a golf course in Brisbane. Because when there was a huge flood, maybe, gosh, that must be 5 years ago now, they got washed in. And then when the water receded, they couldn't get home. So they're still there at this golf course. No, don't see. Well, we don't have alligators. We have crocodiles. We don't see crocodiles wandering. Well, up north from here, you do. There's crocodiles wandering around, but they're not on heat. They're just wandering around because it's their home, and humans just happen to be trying to inhabit it. But they've been there for millions of years because they're dinosaurs, so they're not too worried about the humans in their way.
Baby.
Yeah, well, my boobs are over here. I don't know what you're doing over there. Mm. Yes. Can see my weaning is going very well. Yes.
I think in the United States, the situation is people are encroaching in an animal's territory, and that's the main reason for any increase in attacks. I mean, we've had some incidents in Florida, I think, where alligators have attacked maybe children or something like that. But that's a case of you're really building in an area where the alligators are more likely to come in, or maybe even overpopulation. So it's more in the United States where we have a problem with animals attacking people. It's mostly a case, I think, where we are encroaching on the animal's native habitat.
Yeah, that's the same here. Yeah, they don't. Yeah, you've got to be going into their home to be eaten, really. And people do, and there's signs up everywhere telling you where you shouldn't swim, and people do. And then everyone gets upset when they get eaten, but well, it's their own fault.
For the alligator situation, you have to get close. You have to. I mean, they can move very quickly for a short distance, but so you have to move within a certain proximity of the alligator before it's going to get you. Now, if it's a non-supervised kid doesn't know anything. Kid's going to, obviously with a dog or a cat, but you wouldn't if. I mean, like Disneyland, they're now posting signs, watch your children because there's alligators around.
Well,
there's always been alligators around.
The law here is any child under the age of 12 can't be left unsupervised anywhere in any situation for any really extended amount of time. And if you do, the parents can go to jail for up to 3 years. So isn't that, I mean, even if you don't like your children and you don't care if they get eaten by alligators, which some people seem to not care about because they let their children swim in these areas, well, you're going to go to jail for 3 years. Well, here, anyway, you go to jail for 3 years if that happens. Isn't that a good deterrent to say, hey, kids, get out of the water? If adults do it, that's your business.
Yeah. Okay. Got.
Well, how do you know what the law is with looking after children at an age there?
No, I don't.
No.
What I will guess is it varies from state to state, and we got 15 states. So I know. Yeah, I don't know because there's in so many parts of the United States, local law counts. Like the helmet law for kids on motor scooters and things, and it's city by city. So I really don't know. The stories that I remember where a child was attacked, I don't remember reading where the parents were penalized in all the way, other than the fact that their poor kid got attacked. So I don't know, and I'm going to guess it just depends on the city and the state. Okay, I've got 2 stories left. Now, one of them we could go on for hours because it's questions for humanity's future. Gotta hold that off. This one is talking about Wikileaks, and it's the question. The issue is Wikileaks organization just dumping data, releasing data, and not even worrying about what is in that data, saying some of that data people should know about and not worrying about the fact that some of the data is personal information and affects individuals. So that's the issue, is I called it collateral damage. Let me read this, and the question becomes, investigative journalism is important, but you also have to act responsibly and in reviewing that data. So this was, I forget, it's in The Guardian, I think. The whistleblowing site Wikileaks has published the sensitive personal data of hundreds of ordinary people, including 6 children, rape victims, and people with mental problems, an investigation has revealed. Now, this is alleged, according to WikiLeaks. In the past year alone, the Radical Transparency Agency has published medical files belonging to scores of ordinary citizens. Hundreds more have had sensitive family, financial, or identity records posted to the web, according to the Associated Press. In 2 cases, WikiLeaks named teenage rape victims. Now, this is published in The Guardian, which publishes WikiLeaks. In a third case, which the organization disputes, WikiLeaks published the name of a Saudi citizen arrested for being gay, an extraordinary move given that homosexuality can lead to social ostracization and a prison sentence or even death. The Saudi person said they published everything: my phone, my address, names, and details. If the family of my wife saw this, it could destroy the whole family. A tweet from the main WikiLeaks accounts denied that particular charge. And WikiLeaks did not immediately respond to The Guardian for this entire article. A couple of other things. 2010, Amnesty International, along with something called the Open Society Institute and the Afghanistan Independent Human Rights Commission, signed an open letter criticizing the organization, WikiLeaks, for its decision not to redact the names of Afghan citizens in the Manning leaks, a decision which showed what the advocacy group Reporters Without Borders described as incredibly irresponsible. That's probably open to debate. More recently, leaked material from the Democratic National Committee, published in July, carried more than 24 Social Security and credit card numbers, according to the Associated Press. Analysis that was assisted by some group called Data Gravity. Now, okay, that's a biased organization, I'm sure. 2 of the people named in the files told the Associated Press they were targeted by identity thieves following the leak. Now, one was a retired U.S. diplomat who said he also had to change his credit card numbers after being bombarded with threatening messages. WikiLeaks' stated mission is to bring censored and restricted material. Well, we know what it is. Its library is growing. The library is filled with, it says, rogue data, including computer viruses, spam, and a bunch of personal records. Saudi diplomatic cables hold at least 24 medical files, got nothing to do with politics or corruption. It has to do with, again, personal information. That's the claim. A partially Saudi women, well, I'm not going to read it because this is claims. And I'm not going to say, I can't say that it's verified as being 100% accurate, but I think the earlier part of the story I talked about releasing some of the personal information, that yes, like with the Democratic National Committee, credit card numbers, I think that is accurate. A guy named Paul Dietrich, a transparency activist, told the Associated Press that a partial scan of Saudi cables alone turned up more than 500 passports, identity, academic, and unemployment files. You got a teacher, teaches media and communications, Junior University, has followed WikiLeaks for years. Now, she says Assange may not have the staff or the resources to properly vet what he publishes, or perhaps felt the urgency of his mission trumped privacy.
Well, this particular leak that they're talking about, I'm not that familiar with. I'd have to look into it further. However, I know that when they were first doing the Cablegate, when all of this first happened with Chelsea Manning, they said, we are going to dump, we're going to dump these. We want them redacted. We want your help to redact them. You can either help us or not. And they had other organizations helping them to redact the information. And the government said, they actually asked the US government, hey, if you want this, want to help us redact it, you can. And they didn't. Maybe they should have helped. If they thought that there was information that shouldn't have been out there. This one I'd have to have a look at. But pardon me. Sorry. Still getting over my thing. The medical records and outing gay citizens in Saudi Arabia, that doesn't sound like their style.
Yeah, it's one article. I personally haven't, researched it to see how accurate it might be. I'm certainly going to guess that yes, certainly in some cases, personal information was probably released. But I think WikiLeaks has done a public service through investigative work. I think investigative journalism, and that's why I see it, is extremely important. You got to have transparency in government. We don't have transparency in government. I can remember going back possibly to the 50s or the 40s, there was a reporter. Now, I think he was Walter Reuther. No, not Walter Reuther. I can't think of his name. But in any event, that's what he did. And he had a column, well-known, got Pulitzer Prizes, etc. And as a consequence, I think someone threw acid in his face and blinded him. So being an investigative journalist, obviously in a lot of countries, including the United States, it's a dangerous occupation. But
yeah. But as I was saying, the medical data and that kind of thing has no political advantage. I mean, actually releasing credit card numbers and telephone numbers, I have no problem with that. Because do you know how many times that stuff has been held by governments, and the governments have paid the lowest tender to set up a secure website, right? And it's crap, and it gets hacked. And then Australians, well, I don't know about you guys, but I know it's happened. Australian citizens have had all of that information hacked that was supposed to be kept safe by the government. So you know what? Releasing some government officials' telephone numbers and credit card numbers so that they know how it feels, I have no problem with that. And you don't lose any money because the banks cover the whole credit card fraud thing. You've got 24 hours to change your number, and you're not out any money. The banks can afford it because they're scumbags and rip you off. And the telephone numbers, oh boo-hoo, you have to get a new number and change your business cards. You're slightly inconvenienced. I have no problem with that. But
I have a problem with credit cards.
Why?
Because I think that's too personal information. I mean, if you're talking about a politician, okay, politician is fair game for just about anything. But I draw the line at something personal, like credit card information,
where what about they're supposed to be keeping your credit card information and secure, and they don't?
You're not talking about politicians, that's not the job of politicians. If you're talking about someone in the NSA or someone in Homeland Security, you might get an argument there. But if you're talking about just, I mean, a senator, a congressman, even a president for that matter, I don't think credit card information, I don't think that falls under public disclosure, adequate public disclosure.
But the problem, okay, so they're saying identity theft with having your credit cards. Do you really think someone is going to be able to get a credit card with Barack Obama's name on it? I don't think so. I don't think he has to worry about identity theft. It's an unusual name. You know, it's an inconvenience that happens to all of us when these organizations pay the lowest possible tender, you know, to actually set up a secure site, and they don't. So, I mean, there was the whole LinkedIn thing. I mean, I know now I'm off on a tangent. But LinkedIn sent an email, a bulk email out months after it happened. Hey, by the way, we got hacked, and your passwords, you know, they've got all your information, and you need to fix that. But this happens with government stuff as well. It happened with our census just the other. We did the census online. About 4 million people out of 22 actually got to do it online before it got hacked. So all that information gotten stolen by someone in China. I mean, this is all medical records. This is all people where you live. That can all be used to steal your identity. So if governments aren't going to keep all that secure, why should we keep your stuff secure?
Yeah, but you're talking about a hacker doing it. My issue is with a reporter or an organization like WikiLeaks releasing personal information. It comes down to what that personal information is. If you're talking about now, the claim in the article was that some of these people were private individuals. That's the claim. If that were true, I would have a problem with that. But I don't know. That's just a claim. And I guess, where do you draw the line? You've got this sensitive information. You feel it needs to be released. You don't have the time or staff to look at all of it. Do you delay reporting this information, or do you wait until, or do you only release the information? My opinion would be you only release the information you have had the opportunity to look at and review. If you've got information and you haven't had a time to look at it and review it, you don't release it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That sounds reasonable.
Mm.
Okay.
So WikiLeaks need more staff, is that what you're saying?
Yes, depending on the sensitivity of the information.
Mm.
Now, yeah, you might be able to get enough volunteers, but you got to trust the volunteers. Now you got another problem. You got the other volunteers looking at the information, which they could personally steal and do something with. I don't know. But I think you could probably get a group of volunteers together. Maybe that would be the best solution. But if you haven't looked at the information yourself, I say you don't report it, because you don't even know how reliable it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we could go all night long with this next piece. This is an article posted in Scientific America. 20 questions, big questions for humanity's future. How you feeling, Pamela? So you just let me know when you're fading.
I've been fading for a week. I do feel drowsy because of the medication. It says non-drowsy, but they're lying. So just keep talking. If I nod off, yell at me. It'll be all right. Okay. Or just leave me drooling on camera for entertainment, if that's.
Hey, that's entertainment value. Oh, all right.
Yeah. But yeah, if you're not boring, if that's what you're thinking, I'm
just thinking about you know, how long it's 2:30 a.m. where I live.
It's only 4:30 actually. No, I've just made noodles for Chelsey. She's fine.
Okay. All right. Question number 1: does humanity have a future beyond Earth? I think it's a dangerous delusion to envision mass immigration from Earth. There's nowhere else in the solar system, and this is the column, this is Kyle Hilton. There's no one else in the solar system that is as comfortable as even the top of Everest or the South Pole. We must address the world's problems here. Nonetheless, I'd guess that by the next century, there will be groups of privately funded adventurers living on Mars, and therefore perhaps elsewhere in the solar system, and I'm adding eventually. We should surely wish these pioneer settlers good luck in using all the cyber techniques and biotech to adapt to alien environments. Within a few centuries, they will have become a new species. Travel beyond the solar system is an enterprise for post-humans, an evolved human, organic and inorganic. This is Martin Rees, who's a British cosmetologist and astrophysicist. Okay, the question is, does humanity have a future beyond Earth? In my opinion, it would be absolutely. And since the Earth itself is going to go kaput, maybe a couple of billion years into the future, then I think it's even going to become necessary for Earthlings to migrate outside our galaxy. So I think we don't have a choice. We have to plan to move beyond Earth, and we should start with the moon, practice on the moon, and then when we get good at learning how to live on the moon, only 4 days away, I think, then we can talk about going on to Mars. But I would say yes, we absolutely have a future beyond Earth, and our future civilizations beyond Earth are going to be just as good or bad as the ones on Earth itself.
Yeah, I agree. But I think more humans actually need to start practicing living, off the land, off the grid on Earth before they can even get to the moon and beyond. I'm no longer friends with this one person I've had an argument with. There are so many people that they are so dependent on the way we sort of live with these, houses and crap like that. If you put them out in the bush and left them, they will die. They don't know how to survive. So I think humans need to be taught how to survive on Earth first without all this technology and 21st century stuff. It's nice to have, but you shouldn't need it. You should know how to live off the land because it's survival of the fittest and you're all going to die. And it's not even a case of just when the sun engulfs the Earth and the Earth is no more, and it's climate change. We're not going to be able to live in the weather that's coming for a while, even if we have to leave for 10,000 years and come back when it's cooler again. I think that's the reality, and I think that's not too far away. So, but yeah, definitely, we'll either leave the Earth or we'll become extinct. Which that's our choice. They're our choices.
That I would agree with. The issue that's where we start debating it, at least the United States, the issue really is government funding, private funding. Does the government do nothing, basically, and leave it up to individuals and private industry? How much should the government get involved in funding technology and programs that will help people to adapt to the climate? Specifically, I'm thinking of property development along the coast. Now, property developers, of course, coastline property is very expensive. We have a lot of money developing coastline property, but we know the water level is rising, and we already can see flooding in many populated areas. So I think the federal government should ban developments in any coastal flood zone, and you got to pick a time period. Let's say if you can say that sometime in the next 50 years, there's a reasonably good chance that this particular area, you pick a water line, you make that water line maybe 50 years to the future at least, and you say, completely ban development in that area. 50 years, the water line 50 years from today. To what degree do you think the federal government should involve, or should they just primarily be individuals, and the government's just going to screw it up?
Yeah. I don't know. You still, if people want to be stupid and deny climate change and develop out the coast to their own peril, well, isn't that their business? I mean, people are allowed to smoke cigarettes at their peril and drink alcohol at their peril. So they're not hurting me by developing, by the ocean.
Yeah, but there's a cost to all the rest of us.
Why is there a cost to the rest of us?
Because we're going to have to save these people.
No,
we're going to have to, like New Orleans. New Orleans is a city that's below sea level. Now, there may be the parts on the high ground we're saving, but I got to tell you, that hurricane came along and wiped out parts of New Orleans that are below sea level. We don't develop. Right now, we are, in fact, rebuilding dikes or whatever the heck you call them, and we're giving, I think, federal assistance so people can come in and populate the area of New Orleans that's below sea level. I say no, you do not do that.
Yeah, okay, I didn't know that was happening. Really? Isn't it just, Captain Obvious? Don't do that because it's going to happen again. Okay, so the cost of the rest of us. Yeah. So if private developers want to do that, they should be able to sign a clause and say, we don't expect anyone to rescue us. Because if it's people, no, but if you've got lots of money and you don't have any kids, so you're not invested in the future of humanity, and you want to live your life out, in a nice development by the water, well, that's your business, because it's not going to, encourage upon anyone. No one's going to inherit it really or anything like that. But yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the reality is, we're not going to let people. I mean, we're not going to let people just die, obviously. And that's a silly question. That's a silly statement. But if it depends on the size of the area, I think the government will always be compelled to go in and help people who have lost their property under any circumstances, with the exception of maybe, the top 1% of the richest people in the world, perhaps. So I don't think it's in the best interest of the country to leave that decision to the individuals, talking about waterfront property, because I think there is always going to be too much of a cost to government. And if you ban it, there's no loss as far as I can see. The only thing is, developers are going to leave. They're going to sell that waterfront condo. They're going to take their money and they're going to go. So it's the people living in the condo that are going to get stuck. And if you don't build in that 50-mile zone, let's say, I don't really see where there's a significant loss. There's plenty of land in the United States. So boo-hoo, you can't have a waterfront property. Big deal.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying there now. Yeah, then that would be reasonable.
Okay, we're being reasonable. Let's go on to the next question.
I was just thinking, I mean, it's not like we have a lot of land here in Australia too. If you, so it's quite risky to go into the outback, right? A lot of people die out there because it's desert. It's full-on desert. There's nobody out there. There's dingoes out there, hungry, skinny dingoes waiting for you to come along and go to sleep, and they'll chew you and they go off, right? This is real. This is how Australia is. And there are signs up at the ends of the roads, of the rocky roads, where you're going off the road, and I mean off-road, right? Usually people have to take a helicopter out there. And it signs up saying, if you need rescuing, it's going to cost you, I think it's like $8,000 for this special huge truck to come and tow you back out. So, and people can do that. You have every right to go out there. It's just, if you need to be rescued, it's going to cost you $8,000.
That's reasonable. I think that's reasonable.
So what I'm saying is, if people are going to, build on in these disaster zones, they should be able to, as long as they know if they need rescuing, it's going to cost a certain amount of money, and they should have to have that money like available in a bank account or something that they can show, like as a bond.
That sounds reasonable. I don't completely agree with that. Anyway, I'd say simply bar the development. But what you said does sound reasonable. I had a thought. Well, you're moving your trout. That's your little, what do you call it? What, you got Chelsey? Is that what you're moving, your little trolley thing?
My trolley thing? What?
I thought it looked like your hands were engaged and you were moving something.
Oh, no, just my laptop.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I had to plug it in. The battery was going.
Good connection, I have to say, considering the trouble you had the first time. And
yeah, I don't know what was going on there. It wouldn't let me through on the link, but it took up the invitation.
Okay. Yeah,
so I think that's. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, that's the issue in the United States. It's how much the federal government should get involved in issues like climate change. It's a big thing, for instance, also on private lands, not private lands, public lands, where in some of the national parks, you have cattle farm. You have, I think it's cattle farmers, maybe it's other type of farmers who use public land, and because of political deals, they pay a low price for it. And there's a pipeline being built, and I'm wandering off subject here, and it's going to be going across 7 or 8 American states, oil pipeline. And there are several Native American tribes who are suing in court. Now, the land is not on tribal land, not tribal land, but it is public land. And it's public land where this particular tribe, and it might be more than one tribe, say their ancestors may be buried, something like that. But it's not tribal land, it's public land. I don't think it might even be a public park, but I don't think it's a public. You can't do that. You can't put I don't believe you cannot put an oil pipeline through a national park in the United States. I don't think you can do that. So I think it's public land, but it's not national parks. So the FDA has approved it. Government has approved it. And this is like Obama who said no to that other pipeline. So Obama and his officials have opposed other pipelines. They say this pipeline is okay. So the issue is, as long as, now the government says this pipeline is okay, that it's going to be built properly, etc., is that good enough? And I have 2 questions. I think the primary question I have is, I don't trust corporations who are building the pipeline. They say it's going to be perfectly safe, latest technology. I don't trust them. Number 2, I don't trust the government. I don't think the government has enough inspectors to make sure that this pipeline is in fact going to be built properly and maintained properly. But legally, I don't think the tribes have a leg to stand on, since it's not on tribal land, it's on public land. The government supports it. I don't think the tribes have a leg to stand on, but I would oppose it simply because I don't think the United States government has the resources to make sure it's properly built and maintained. In Australia, in the United States, over the last 30, 40, 50 years, and I'm wandering off topic again, you've got a pretty strong legal presence with the Native American tribes. They got good lawyers, and they've won lawsuits against corporations in the United States. And so they've got they're pretty good at protecting their rights in the United States. So that's one thing I have to say about the law in the United States. There's a fairly good job of looking after the rights of these native tribes. I get the impression that's not the case in many other countries. Maybe Brazil, but I know it's not the case in China, where they have the Mongolian tribesmen who migrate. Their lifestyle is being cut back. But I think that's one good thing about the American law and American legal system. I think it does a reasonably good job of protecting the indigenous people's rights.
Yeah, no, we don't. It's not good here. I'll definitely be doing legal work pro bono on behalf of the Indigenous people of Australia. I would like to see them all come together and just sue the Queen and get their land back.
Can they sue? Who would they sue?
The Queen of England.
Oh, to get all their land back.
Yeah, there was no treaty. In order to take over, England said that no one lived here, terra nullius. So they lied.
Okay, do you have, I presume you have areas in Australia that are controlled, and I guess it would be, to what degree do they legally control what happens on what we call reservations? The Native Americans completely control what happens on the reservation, the territory they have been granted. Is that the case in Australia?
In some parts, yeah, they do. They have tribal land, but it's still all under the Crown. And a lot of the land they were given back, as if it was not theirs in the first place, was all tested with nuclear bombs in the 1950s. So it's all radioactive. And then, so that was, USA testing ground, by the way, came to Australia and tested bombs out here. And then that land was given back to the Indigenous people. And now they've all got, birth defects generations on. It's disgusting.
Well, the land, funny thing, the land that our Indigenous people were given was only the land that the white Europeans didn't want. And what would happen is they would be given a territory, and all of a sudden, oops, gold discovered. Oops, I'm sorry, but that's going into the past. I'm going to say over the last 50 years or so, the territory they've been given. Actually, it's still not really great farming territory. The biggest reservation is in the three states, the Navajo Reservation and the Hopi Reservation, I believe. But they also, I think they have discovered oil on some of this Native American property, I think in Oklahoma. So all of a sudden, you got some Native American tribes that are pretty rich. Their land in some cases became pretty valuable.
See, that's the thing. I'd have to look up the exact measurement, but it's literally only inches. When it's Crown land and you own it, even though you don't own it because the Queen owns it, you only own that far underneath, right? And then you only own so much airspace, and then the rest is still the Queen. So even if gold or oil is found on what's supposed to be your land, she still owns it. Because you only own this much.
Wow.
It's
so your
dodgy.
indigenous people are in worse shape than ours.
Much worse shape.
Wow.
It's so dodgy. No, I'll definitely be working with them as a lawyer in the not too distant future.
Yeah, it's well, it comes down to legal standing, because in the United, well, I don't know what the laws are regarding the rights of our Native Americans. I don't know. I know on the reservation they have control. Period. End of discussion.
Just to make it clear, if I as a white person buy a piece of land, I only own that much as well, underneath. Like that's all of us. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, the Queen owns it. It's the Queen.
Really?
Yeah.
So what about mining?
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. I looked at it. Oh my goodness! I did that in environmental law. They rent that land. So the mining laws are completely separate, because if people did not mine it to get the minerals out of the ground to make stuff for all of us, then they wouldn't do it, because it's really hard work. So it's for the betterment of humanity if that land is mined, right? But it's rented. So everything's still the Queen's.
Wow.
There's layers of legislation. I've only found this out since doing my law degree. I think everyone should do a law degree. I've been really shocked at what I've found. That you're just not told. It is shocking, yeah.
Private property.
And I think everyone should do a new. Yeah.
Private property is a big deal.
I don't know how people.
In the United States.
It is.
That's a very. You don't. I know there's eminent domain. Okay. So my grandfather, he owned property, and they had to redevelop the town, and they were building a highway, the New England Thruway, and they needed exit ramps. Got to put the exit ramp somewhere, and I happened to put it where my grandfather lived. Okay. So he didn't want to move. He had no choice. So they can use eminent domain, but there's a whole process you have to go through. And boy, I tell you, the courts really, I mean, private property is a very big thing in the United States. The government does not own private land at all. So I will guess the United States government actually owns and has direct control over maybe 25% at the very most, will be my guess. Might be more because of military bases and stuff, but the vast majority of private land. And you can do what you want on private land. And for instance, if somebody wants to mine, they have to pay you. Now, what happens sometimes is they'll cheat you. You know, they'll go up to an old couple and say, hey, here's $10,000 for the mining. And now you're not giving them the property. You're only giving them the mineral rights to the property. But still, that's their property. And, you know, you have to they have to sign a contract giving you the right to do it. And you don't have you cannot simply come and take private property except eminent domain when you're talking about a city that has to do a major project. So, wow.
They can force mining here. And that's why we have a Lock the Gate campaign. So, you know, farmers and that don't let the mining companies on your property. We, as farmers of Australia, you need to be farming food for our country, for our people, to feed the people. So you lock the gate on the mining. But they can legally force their way on and mine it. You can get compensated, but they still screw up your farm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Australia's looking a little less like a possible place to put a science island.
No, but that island I posted, was it the $259,000 one?
Yeah, I saw that.
That's how much my townhouse cost. Wish I'd bought that island now. I'd rather go camping on an island that I own than own a townhouse.
You know, I'll tell you how property rights are so important. You had in Texas, you had the controversy with fracking, and because of fracking using a lot of water, you had some towns that were going almost bone dry, and you had a town in Texas, and the only water source was one guy, and he locked up his water source, and because he could make more money, he sold it to the oil company. And then anything anybody could do, even though it meant that that town was drying up, it was his property. And if he wanted to sell to the mining company, nothing anybody could do about it. I'm guessing that would not be the case in Australia.
No, I don't think so. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, baby. She's so funny. What's the next question?
Next question.
You're muted, Ed.
Baby. Hi.
Okay. All right. Wait a second. I saw another. It says present to everybody. Yes, I want to present to everybody. I don't know. Okay. Will we ever understand the nature of consciousness? And this is Christoph Koch, President, CEO of Allen Institute of Brain Science. And here's what he says. Some philosophers, mystics, and other confabulators, boy, this guy's using, maybe you understand what the heck words he's using here. Confabulators nocturne is night, pontificate about the impossibility of ever understanding the true nature of consciousness, of subjectivity, yet there is little rationale for buying into such defeatist talk, and every reason to think to look forward to the day not that far off when science will come to naturalize, quantify, and predict understanding of consciousness and its place in the universe. Now I'm going to I'll let you answer that as I go and take a potty break.
I'll come back to this now. Yeah. Little rationale. Sorry, I had a toddler chatting away to me. No, we're not saying bye-bye at the moment. Don't we understand consciousness? Well, I'll wait for Ed to come back. But what's that author's name who wrote Flash Forward? Robert Sawyer, is it?
Oh.
Flash Forward. I'm not talking about the season 2. I'm not talking about the novel. I'm not talking about the TV show. I'm talking about the novel. Oh dear. My internet's a bit slow at the moment. I think it's Robert Sawyer. I haven't read that to you yet. But he looked at how
I am back. I don't. see. Pamela is frozen. All right, honey. Hopefully she will come back, and I'll address the question, talking about consciousness. Our Canadian friend, Dale, it's his opinion that everything's an algorithm. Everything is software, including the human brain. He's right. And, uh-oh, goodbye, Pamela. I'll wait and see if she comes back. Will we ever know? The question is, will we ever understand or ever be able to create the algorithm that matches the human brain? And I have my doubts about that, because the human brain is evolving. So we're in kind of an arms race, if you will, between trying to build that algorithm that matches the human brain and the human brain continuing to evolve. Well, the other two like up. I got my doubts. Let's see. I got to go back. Got to go back to the Facebooks. I just want to see if Pamela had left a message. I can see, I don't know if she might be having problems with her connection like she had earlier. Okay, nothing there. Okay. She got kicked out of the Hangout twice earlier, and I had to start a whole new Hangout. Hopefully that's not the case. Okay, I'll babble away for a little bit. Okay, so we're talking about consciousness. We're talking about actually an algorithm, which is our human brain. And I don't believe we will ever be able to build an algorithm that can predict with a high degree of confidence, 90%, human behavior. I think an intuitive human being will always be able to predict human behavior better than an artificial intelligence. That's my best guess. But even we don't, we don't understand our own brain as well. Okay, I got a message. Okay. Okay. She got booted out, and we'll have to pick up the question next week. Okay, so Pamela's gone. I don't want to babble away all by myself. I like to bounce off questions, not very entertaining to our one viewer. Hello, one viewer. So I am going to sign out, and we will continue these questions next week with Pamela and hopefully Justin Jackson. And for anybody who's still here, I have to mention is because Google Plus is delinking Google Plus from YouTube Hangouts, and all the Hangouts are going on to YouTube, God only knows what's going to happen. Perhaps nothing, and perhaps it's going to take me 3 weeks to figure out how the heck to set up a live Hangout. Hopefully not. So good night, everybody, and I hope if I didn't inform you, at least we entertained you. Bye.